And we are starting. We're right into it. Kia ora, and welcome to this evening's Substack Live with Aotearoa Educators Collective. Tonight is an opportunity for us to celebrate, acknowledge the fantastic work of Dr. Claire Coleman, and also to dip our toes into the exciting report that came out today, a vision for education in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that we launched this morning. So this evening is really an opportunity for us to spend half an hour together here this evening and introduce ourselves to this fabulous report. You're welcome to ask questions via the comment box, my friends, and I will jump in and Stephen Lethbridge will jump in. But actually, the person who I look forward to handing it over to mostly this evening is the one and only Dr. Claire Coleman, who authored the report on behalf of the Aotearoa Educators Collective. So welcome, Claire. How are you?
All right. Yes, just having to do a little computer switcheroo there, but back in the zone.
It was all action stations.
That's got to be very
how we roll.
And agile here in the wonderful world of education and technology.
So thank you for your contribution, Claire, and the work that you've done on behalf of the Aotearoa Educators Collective. As a bit of a background, do you want to talk about the process of taking up the challenge and the opportunity that landed before you, that was writing this particular report? So a little bit about coming to be the author of this here report, and then maybe we'll dive into what is actually in there and what we can do with the thing.
All right. Yeah. So I guess how did I come to the report? Well, as some of our viewers may know, I have a background in education from all sort of parts of it. I've been a primary school teacher, a secondary school teacher, an academic. I worked in ITE. I worked at the Ministry of Education for a spell. So, and having not formally in any of those places in a full-time way at the moment, but I'm doing a lot of work to advocate for young people and children in the current space. And so I guess the work of AEC aligned very much with my own values around those things. And yeah, the opportunity kind of presented itself in terms of what the AEC wanted to do with, I guess, creating something that could enact the values that underpin the AEC in a really tangible way. And in terms of a writing project, it was appealing not only because it was a tangible something to create and to make and to have go out into the world that can hopefully spark some joy and some interest and some thinking. But also I got to work with some great people, which is always wonderful, and dig into some really interesting future-focused research, some of which I was familiar with, some of which was new, but always useful to go back to those things and think about the education in the broadest possible sense that we want to be able to have across all the systems and all the different facets of things that I've worked in, and getting to see how that kind of could really network together in a coherent way for a long-term view of education and getting away from the sort of polarizing binary sort of thing that's tended to happen.
Yeah. And so in terms of the process of writing the report itself, once you were engaged by the Aotearoa Educators Collective to take on this opportunity, it obviously wasn't just a carte blanche, go for your life, woo, off you go, imagine the future. So it was a collaboration between the entity of Aotearoa Educators Collective. Obviously, we've been around. When did it get formed, Stephen? So 2 or 3 years now. Two formally, maybe
2.5-ish.
Yeah. So in that time, we have developed a set of guiding principles and a vision that sort of underpins all of the work we do as a collective. We are very much, for the most part, we're voluntary. We're literally a collective of educators, school leaders, teachers, academics who come together, and there's a action group who do a bit of the nuts and bolts working behind the scenes. So I know we provided you with a set of sort of principles and some of those sort of foundational documents and thinking, and then it was sort of put to you to go away and start turning that into a bit of a tangible vision and what became a set of aspirations or ambitions. But ambition. Yeah, absolutely. Ambitions. Tell us about the choice of that word. Why have we used ambitions?
Why have we used ambitions? That's a good question. I think there were a few different things that we considered in that.
Yeah.
Looking at different terminology. I think and it was probably trying to be as broad and as inclusive of all the kinds of aspects of the thing that we wanted as well. Because some of them, I think some of the ambitions or some of the concepts that I was kind of trying to knit together were more actionable and kind of tangible to people. And some were broader kind of conceptual things that would feed into lots of different aspects of the education system. Mm-hmm. So ambitions, I think, was a nice kind of a kind of catch-all inclusive phrase that would say that would kind of hold that energy. I think was the idea, like the energy that we want behind those things. And in terms of the process, as you said, I was given the principles, the AEC founding principles. Obviously, I was very familiar with your work through attending the events and being in those kinds of things. But it was good to have that as kind of a go back and go, right, what are we really wanting and what are the crucial elements to be looking to? And that's when I then went into the literature. Oh goodness, I've just lost you. Right, yep, good. You can see me, I can't see you.
Yeah, we are absolutely fine. You're there and we can hear you and we can see you. Just,
my screen has just died. Very interesting. Yeah. So looking through the literature, I guess, and some of it, again, some of it very familiar with, some of it was new, to see what kind of connected with those principles, and then starting to dig into that, really.
Yeah. And you've actually frozen on us again. So, well, since you have frozen and you are a voice, I'm going to be helpful. And I'm going to start showing. We have two different artifacts that are available. And thank you to Christina who has shared the link in the comments. So you'll see Stephen's holding up the actual report that you can download the PD off our website. And we also have a bit of an A3 printout and takeaway, which has a QR code that you can put up in your workrooms and your staff rooms as well. So that brings us to the actual content and the guts of what is in the vision. Claire, do you want to take us through a little bit of a talking tour through the ambitions that make a vision for education in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Okay, I will do my very best. So essentially, as mentioned, there are 5 ambitions. The idea is that these are interconnected to form a sort of coherent, future-focused, aspirational a vision for us, and they're not in any kind of particular order. But I will say we did pay close attention, I think, to the notion of honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi and making sure we are re-establishing that bicultural part very strongly, and I think that was probably of all of the 5 that we said, but not in any order. That was the one we definitely wanted to make sure we got into first, because I think it as you know, if you're having a bicultural curriculum, that flows through all of the other elements as well, and we needed to start with our founding document. We needed to start with Te Tiriti in that way. So the first ambition is around re-establishing that bicultural curriculum, and thinking about a real, authentic, genuine partnership. And I think part of that for us was also kind of, was recognizing that this isn't this report is not a decisive template for anything. It's not a telling anyone to, and we know there's more work to do in that partnership.
Not mandate.
Not a mandate. And it's not, and I recognize my own positionality, right? It's typically, I'm not going to spend away, and I would not imagine to speak to that, but recognizing, I guess, that bicultural nature and that work that needs to go on, but also saying we are in partnership and we want to honour that. So that matters, I think, because, it talks about, I guess, the role in which we participate in our society and we contribute to our communities and the space and place that we're from. And and that we know that having diverse ways of knowing, diverse ways of thinking, is good for all of our learners. It's not an either or, and there's more and more research now around the incredible value of integrating Indigenous knowledges, for all learners, and how much that ensures that our young people are better positioned to engage with kind of this uncertainty, but also our kind of the interconnected nature of our world. I better whisk through because otherwise I'll be here all day on that one. The next ambition, not in any particular order, is, thank you, very helpful to have a visual aid, is around increasing the equity of outcomes. So thinking about, not kind of a short-term thing or an intervention kind of thing, but what we need in terms of the systems level response. Really, really thinking about how we ensure that, it's not only about sort of tips of success or things, but we're recognizing that we're coming from a strengths-based point of view.
Yeah. And this one as well, I think we've got to be really clear. Like, I think there's in the current reform narrative, there's this often discussion around equal opportunity or equity of opportunity. And it's really important that we're talking about equitable outcomes. I think there's such a misnomer around the concept of equality and equity in the current reform landscape. So this is not about everyone getting the same opportunity. It's about achieving equitable or more equitable outcomes.
It's recognizing fairness, not sameness, right? So it's recognizing that the systems themselves are not, if they're not fair to begin with, then we can't just rely on doing the same thing for everybody.
One size fits all.
Yeah. That will only, in fact, widen those gaps. So we need approaches that recognize different histories, different strengths, different identities, different needs, different, structural barriers or opportunities that have been provided. And so the idea again is that education is a public system, and it will provide that participation, opportunity and belonging across society. Again, the international evidence around that says that education systems can shape those long-term social, economic and civic outcomes. But equity is really important in terms of whether they will fulfill that purpose, getting to those equity of outcome. The next one is talking around, yes, lovely, thank you, by visual aid. And I should say the poster is giving you a little snapshot. It's just a taster, so do please read the report.
You're there.
But it's about thinking about the broadening of our curriculum. So designing learning around what really matters, thinking about authenticity, thinking about how we can ensure young people are able to thrive and sort of connect to each other and live with a purpose. Our world is changing, ever evolving at the moment. So we need to cultivate sort of really valuable capabilities and purposes for young people that are going to go beyond school and think beyond that. So it's not only about achieving things for school reasons and qualification reasons, but also about this notion of human flourishing. The OECD report, the Human Flourishing 2030-2040 stuff talks very much about this, about education for well-being and societal good, and getting young people who are going to be able to cope in a ever-changing environment with a lot of ecological and social challenges. So, we want to make sure that our education system is providing that rich raft of curriculum and learning opportunities, including, of course, the lovely arts.
And there was a question here about, is it about range of subjects or depth of teaching of the subject? And I think you touched on both, didn't you?
Yeah, it's about both of those things. Yeah. It's not about, and I liked this.
No such thing as dumb question.
It's like lovely. No, it's about this thing of knowledge activation, not knowledge acquisition. So it's not about knowing a bunch of stuff. It's about knowing some things and then what can you do with those things. And so it is, having a range of looking at the interconnections across learning areas. I always find this astonishing, to be honest with you, is a question that we're still grappling with at this time after so many decades of this, because, learning only happens in school in subjects. It doesn't happen that way in life. So, we need to actually think about, the life, I guess, the life worthiness, what we're engaging with and how it does the transferable stuff, the connection points, I'm primary trained, so I always think about integrations and those kind of things. But yeah, depth as well.
It's that craziness, right? That craziness of stop your thinking musically whilst you go and move to think mathematically. You know, looking at those interconnections is crucial.
We're always thinking. Ambition, the next one is around, thank you for nudging me with the helpful visual. I love this is a very nice embodied piece of visual, right? We don't have a technology doing, we have a person. Reprofessionalizing our teachers. So enabling our teachers to really do the job well. And as I mentioned today with you guys, I think teachers are amazing. They are absolutely an embodied intellectual. They are doing 100 million things at once, and they are absolutely, and I say teachers, obviously, I mean all of the people are really working in schools leadership and principals alongside it. And when you have trust between those people and those people trust the work and they trust what they're doing and they have professional judgment and they are trusted to do those things, then it's going to be its strongest. Teach agency is going to be its strongest. And you have those proficient experts who will continually be reflective and they will be continually looking to learn new. And they will be, you know, as I said, you're always thinking about your kids and what's going on and what's working and what's not working. And, you know, again, the research is really unanimous around this. It supports the whole school, the whole community. If you have a teaching profession that feels trusted, that is enabled, that is, you know, has that sense of their professional purpose and their ability and their efficacy too for young people increases. And, you know, in terms of our own, in Aotearoa, obviously, part of that is around te tiriti o wātangi and upholding those treaty responsibilities and be able to do that too. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it strengthens those conditions for high quality learning. It will allow us to have meaningful and sustained change because the teachers are the people who are going to be continually thinking, continually refining, and they will have had that benefit of the time, you know, to really sustain a vision. We really need the conditions to give that profession the due that it needs and the support that it needs. And then our last ambition is around thinking about the shared understanding of what education is and education as a human right and education as a broader thing than just going to school or being the responsibility of a sort of, you know, narrow group of people, but actually that it's a community responsibility, that it's a shared societal thing. And extending, I guess, again, within that notion around human flourishing, around education for allowing our human beings to be themselves, be their most human, and to be, you know, to move forward and to think about what the contribution of education really could be to individuals and to society beyond, I guess, what has tended to be kind of we leave you at the gate and off you go, you do that thing.
Yeah.
But actually, the more that what happens within the school context can be related to the learners' lives, to society, the more they can see their impact, their potential for their impact, the potential of them to imagine their new world, the more kind of you're going to get that collective commitment to sustaining it. So
yeah,
you want to build that. And I think probably, and I know I'm running out of time and I'm loving that we've got some people chatting, but I think that these things then, you know, come together into kind of a set of kind of themes that sort of were in and amongst it. And I must say during the writing process, I was like, oh, that one's over here, but it's over here a bit. And so trying to sort of piece them together. And I think if you read that, I'm hopeful that you do get that sense of coherence.
Yeah.
That we want to be foundational to Te Aotearoa Waitangi. We want to think about education as a system-wide responsibility. It's very complicated and something that
it's complex. Yeah. And we shouldn't be afraid to shy away from that.
No,
we don't want to shy away from that. Yeah.
No. And look, if it was really simple and straightforward, that'd be lovely, but it's just not the way. And I think one of the things I've learned through working in all different aspects of the sector at ITE, teaching, training teachers, in the ministry, looking at it from a curriculum development place, in a classroom with children with me, is that all those parts need to be in sync. They need to be coherent. They need to be working and pulling together, and they need to talk to each other, and they need to network. And again, this is something that the research really talked about. You know, the best systems are the systems that are really gelling. And they know it's going to take time. And they know that building those relationships takes time. And getting those understandings of those different aspects takes time. So I think, that's something that I think is really important.
And the key thing is, like, we've touched on these, and there's a full report with a whole lot more depth. One of the things I thought we could touch on as well, Stephen, is I know it's going to drop tomorrow morning and people will be able to watch the whole event. But do you talk a little bit about what happened this morning in terms of the launch of the event, some of the takeaways, some of the messages that we heard from our friends, Rose Hipkins and Anthony Mackay, who joined us from overseas, and maybe touch on what we heard and what you took away from it as a school leader, and how you see this being used in your role.
Yeah, like it was a pretty well attended event in person. Normally, when you get a number of people come along to an event, you expect a bit of a drop off, but we managed to get quite a large number into that lecture theatre at Auckland, at the University of Auckland. I liked the way it was positioned. This was, I think, if we had politicians in that room, no one could say that we were bagging any particular people. This was a response to generational systemic change review that has happened over, at least 30 years. We've always had a review, an implementation, and then we change it. It's pendulum swinging. And so it was refreshing to have a vision that would try and anchor us into the middle. We were, what I heard was that, that knowledge is important. And actually every teacher in the country would say that knowledge is important, but it is not the be all and end all. And we have to incorporate those competencies and capabilities. So that's where that broaden the curriculum aspect was met with lots of nods, I think, around the room. Having Rose Hipkins there and having Rose as sort of a critical friend and a wise sage, as Claire was writing this report, it was nice just to have her in the room and to have a few wise words from her. The highlight, I think, as well was having such a well-respected international visitor to the session, and Anthony Mackay, just saying, yes, this is exactly where leading systems are heading and need to be. And for him to say that he's looking forward to sharing this on a wider stage was pretty reassuring, and a credit to the work that Claire has put into this report. We were pretty brief this morning. It was a short, punchy presentation. People were talking and networking. The document itself, loved the way it's structured in terms of how it's broken down. The ambitions are described. There's clarity about why that ambition matters. It's all linked to research. It's all linked to evidence. And then the sections in each of those ambitions where Claire breaks it down and enacts it.
So we've got practice examples.
It just gives us an anchoring document that.
I think of it. I actually think of less of an anchoring and more of a North Star. Like I sort of,
true.
I see this as something that sits above the government of the day and above the swings and roundabouts that we feel like we're in this churn often of education reform, and it reminded there was so much in here that actually touched on what we've been so historically proud of about our education system in terms of the placement of te tiriti, in terms of a balance of knowledge and skills and competencies, unapologetically student-centred. And I think that came through really strong. And I think what's really nice is that this, as Claire said, this isn't an instruction manual or telling you exactly what to do. It's sort of a set of ambitions that can help guide us, particularly when we can feel like we're in the throes of educational reform, to say, actually, at the end of the day, this is what matters, and this is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be unapologetic about it. But there was something that Anthony touched on, and I encourage, if you weren't there this morning, take the time to watch the presentation, because it's fantastic to hear Claire unpack the report more fully, but it's also fantastic to hear those insights from Anthony, who works with the OECD. That was one of the guys that set up GALP, who has works with jurisdictions from around the world. And he actually reminded us that actually, at the moment, it feels like we're being done to in a political sense. It feels like we have a style of leadership that means that we are being given directives, quite literally mandates, that they're heavy-handed regulators. And he actually encouraged us to step back and think about the role that politicians and governments should and could be playing. And in the most effective jurisdictions, they are actually enablers and amplifiers of the things that matter. And I think it was a bit of a call to arms for us to really think about what it is. I think we're so busy feeling like we're directed by the government. And we live in a democracy, and we've got a real responsibility and opportunity to make decisions about the kind of government that we want and the kind of support and resourcing we need within education. And that was enough to Claire left us on that note. She's jumped off the screen. What have you done with this, Stephen? Did you kick her off?
I'm sorry, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. You must have triggered something with your wild hand movements.
Yeah, sorry, as I was going.
Yeah,
I promise I didn't kick her off. So hopefully, she might just rejoin us. We are coming to the end of the.
You might need to re-invite her
now.
But when Anthony was talking about, hey, just educators, remember, watch, PISA is out in the next week or two. Just be careful, because basically the results are going to be the same. Don't expect anything different.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same globally.
And it's going to be the same globally. So why not focus on what really is important?
Yeah.
And I think that was the feeling that we got this morning, that this is important. Yeah.
So I think we've got a real responsibility. We can push back. We can speak up about the need for having a system and system leaders who amplify and resource and support us and do all of the things that we talk about in the vision document. As we round out the half an hour, Claire, I'd like to hand the stage, the screen, back to you. And just if you want to share with us any takeaways, the sort of the hopes that you have, the ambitions that you have for the ambitions. If we're going to get meta on it.
It's really meta.
Yeah, it really is. Lucky I haven't got my my meta glasses on at the same time. But what is our hope? And Stephen, you might want to join in this as well with your AEC hat. What is the hope that we have for this document, and how it might be used, and how it might be used actively? Because we don't want this gathering dust on a shelf. We don't want this just be sitting there and saying, "Oh, yeah, that's a nice artifact." We want this to be an active and living document, and we will be running sessions and events and one-day conferences and webinars about each of the ambitions. But Claire, what's your hope for how people might actually pick up and use the document in an active way?
Okay, I'm thinking off the top of my head, there's two things. One, I had a conversation with one of the audience members this morning who talked about being reminded, I guess, through what we all talked about, of actually some of the really good stuff that they were doing, and kind of remembering that actually that this was kind of a little bit of a recentering for them to sort of say, actually, yes, I do know the things that I should be doing, and I have been doing a good job, and I am, these are the things that I hold that are important to me. And that in some ways, what we've done with the report is some of, with the research, with the backing, to give them that sort of grounding to be able to to take some pride and some joy in what they have been up to, what they are doing already, and to recognize that work and to not feel kind of battered down, I think. So if in some ways it can educate people around education for teachers and academics and practitioners right now, re-energize them into, this is why I got into this.
Yeah, and this is what matters, and this is what we need to focus on. Yeah. How about you, Stephen? What's your thoughts? Your hopes for school leaders, for teachers, for politicians?
Well, I mean, I think when we started talking about hope, I recalled a quote from Dean Fink, who's an Australian educator, who talked about our profession being a profession of hope, and that children are ours is a hope profession. So everyone that walks through that school gate is a hope for the future. And that's why we need to have a bigger picture view on why this is important. That's why we've been talking about this stuff. That's why Aotearoa Educators Collective was put together to be the voice for that hope for the future. You know, what is it that we all remember about how we were taught? You know, do we remember how we were taught? Do we remember what we were taught, or do we remember how we were taught?
Yeah.
Do we remember learning to read and write? Or do we remember the amazing experiences? We're all literate, we're literate people. Or do we remember what was going on with that science fair, or that school production, or that choir, or the varying different things that make a school a rich and vibrant place?
And we are authentic.
Yeah. And we are
no one can
agents in
take
there.
effective pedagogy away from us. No one can take away the incredible work that happened when we produced best evidence synthesis, when we produced, our researchers that did te tahitanga and kahikitea and the key competencies that were developed. No one can take that away from us, and no one can stop us delivering and doing what matters in our classroom day to day. And really remembering. And I think this is a reminder. It's a reassurance. It's a challenge. It's a call to arms. And I hope people can see it as such. And it's an invitation. It's an invitation to each and every one of you to, open up that report, put the poster up on your wall, have conversations with your colleagues, remember why we got into this game and why it matters so much. Because, to be fair, a lot of that national reform stuff is background noise. When we get into the classroom on a day-to-day basis, we've got a very real responsibility and a very real opportunity to absolutely do the right thing by our young people on a day-to-day basis. So if this can play a part in reminding us of that, and reminding us of our incredibly rich history of research, and actually reminded us that actually we're still regarded as leading lights educationally around the world, and we might be feeling like we're hitting a few bumps in the road, but the good stuff will prevail.
This is the start, right? So AEC has committed that this is the start, and we'll be producing a number of policy pieces and position pieces on various items, but making sure that we're asking the experts in the field and not just plucking them from places.
And remembering that the Aotearoa Educator Collective is all of you as well. There's some of us that are the action group, but it's an open door. Anyone that wants to contribute, come and participate. There's the AEC happy hour that's going to be happening in a wee while. That's an opportunity for an online discussion group. I know Claire is going to be taking up opportunities to be speaking at conferences and events to the report, and Claire just being awesome, Claire, and doing the work that she's doing in the curriculum agitation and activation and review space. But this is just the beginning, and this is a bit of a reboot and a reactivation, and and a shout out to all of our peak body mates. There's so much great stuff going on at the moment. NZCR just produced a kick-ass curriculum review. We've got the NZPF that are, making a call for a curriculum entity. We all know that our unions are working night and day to put the right thing in the right place. Te Aka Pūmo, Te Akatea are about to run a summit. PPTA have got their conference coming up in the holidays, and of course we've got the ICP, International Confederation of Principals Conference, happening in a few weeks. What a time to be alive, my friends.
Yeah. Isn't it great that all these, like NZPF comes out with a call for a curriculum centre that's devoid of influence.
Yeah.
At around the same time that we're about to launch a vision for education that talks about exactly the same thing. Great minds are starting to think alike and align, which is refreshing. Now, did we settle on the name Happy Hour for next week? Or is it more a book club type discussion? I think we'll await the Claire and Megan show on Sunday. I think on Sunday in our regular update on Sunday, we'll debate the name of it. But I think, as Liam was saying this morning, about 50 people lined up.
Sign up, my friends. Yeah, absolutely. So just in closing, I do want to say a huge thank you once again. I'll hand over to you, Claire, in case you want to say a few closing words as our author of our fantastic report.
I think my closing words would be, I would like everyone to read it. I would like everyone to
get in there,
going with it. Do whatever I think it's going to help you in your circumstance, in your context. Discuss it with your colleagues. Again, people have talked to me about, I'm going to take that to my staff meeting, and we'll have a look at those 5 ambitions and see how they align with what we're doing, or they resonate with what we're doing, they reaffirm or kickstart us. So I think that kind of thing. I mean, one of the crucial things I tried to do with this was write it in such a way that it is accessible. It isn't a slog of a read. No. I know we've got lots of paper on there, so it's done in kind of snap sizes. You take one ambition and just read that one and then come back and if you want to, you can dig into the research underpinning it, but that's for you to determine. So lots of different ways I think you might be able to kind of approach it, but I'm hopeful people are energized by it. And again, remember why we're in this gig, as you said.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And ngā mihi nui, Claire, and thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. And I encourage you to check out the recording of the launch event that will be out tomorrow. Join us for the happy hour. Join us for our school briefs. Sign up to our Substack. Get involved, and remember that the door is always open. We are genuinely a collective, and we would love to have any and all of you involved in the work we do into the future. So kia ora, and I'm off to go watch Ted Lasso. I wish you all a very good evening. Good night. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Stephen. And thank you, everyone who's joined us online. Ka kite.
All right. Fiddle.